there's lots of powerful ways to grow your business. And there's so much like do stories every day and do posts and get out there and do, but it's like, if you're pushing and you're hustling and it's not in alignment, then really what's the transmission that you're giving?
Welcome to the Seeing in the Dark podcast. My name is Nicole Costeres, and I welcome you in a space to find a deep trust in yourself, your intuition, and the deeper intelligence of life. In this podcast, I offer ways to cultivate your intuitive gifts and dive deep into the mysteries of power, purpose, and soul leadership, so that you can remember your deepest core and let your truest potential come alive. Dark, primal, shamanically wild, crystallized, bright, and subtly intuitive. Welcome. So before we dive into this episode, I want to let you know that on the 5th of May, I'm starting a new mastermind group. And this 6-month program is there for the emergence of the fullness of your soul and your business. It's a space where you can embody your own unique essence so deeply that you naturally assist, inspire, and teach others from that. It's also a space where you're going to let the mystery be your strategy. So it's your intuition, your inner guidance, and the deeper intelligence of life that moves you in the first place. And that will get supported with business structures to set up your high-end one-on-one mentorship, to launch your own online program, and to really bring the fullness of your soul work more fully into the world. So if you feel inspired to join this mastermind program, you can go to womenofancientfutures.com and find out all the information about this mastermind. I'm taking on 45-minute free discovery calls for you to explore if and how this program can support you, and there are still a few spots available. Enjoy this episode, and if you feel the pull, I'm looking forward to speak with you soon. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Seeing in the Dark podcast. Today I'm here with Chantelle Raven, who is a tantra teacher and a writer. And I reached out to Chantelle because I saw her and I just felt this very clear and powerful leadership in her as a woman. So welcome today, Chantelle. I'm very happy that we are connecting here today. Yeah, and like I was saying, I got to know you through a common friend of ours. And when I started to follow you on Instagram, there was just something beyond the words that you were speaking. And there was for me, very clear and powerful woman and a very clear leadership that you are embodying. And so today I would love to explore that a bit, like how you came to be this powerful leader that you are today and what your journey has been in that. So the first curiosity that I feel is where did your journey start with leadership, and have you always been this clear and powerful in your leadership?
Okay, well, first, thank you for having me, and it's lovely to connect with you. My dad and my mum are both very strong leaders. They've ran their own businesses all their lives, so I had that transmission from a young age. And really, my personality is naturally strong and very organized in the way that I think about things. I feel like leadership started for me in team projects in primary school, where we'd be put in teams and I would start telling everyone what their jobs were. It always came very natural to me. But also, my father, as well as having his own building companies and different businesses, he is a EFT practitioner, emotional freedom technique. And so he was always teaching me meditation and acceptance of my emotional body and affirmations and, all the good personal development stuff. And then I came across Tantra when I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. And that really was the missing piece for me. My exposure to spirituality had mostly been masculine. And what I mean by that is meditation, staying in my center, no matter what, connecting with virtues. And then all of a sudden I had to go into a more feminine approach because I understood that, you know, wherever the body is talking from is where we're needing some attention. And I'd already had 2 children. I was very connected to my womb and knew that it was more of a feminine piece that was wanting to come online. So as destiny would have it, I met the right people and threw myself into Tantra and discovered, a lot about my emotional body, my sexual body. I also saw some things missing in a lot of the Tantra workshops and organizations I became a part of. So my natural leadership skills inspired me to create my own school and combine a lot of what I learned pre-Tantra from somatic experiencing, time with my dad, meditation, EFT, with a lot of these tools that I was learning. So my gift is synthesis. I synthesize lots of different elements and modalities into one. And, you know, I spent 7 years at university. I've got a law degree and an honors in philosophy and a certificate in anthroposophy. So I've written 7 books now, and I like to make it extremely clear what practices to do when, why you're doing it, and have music that goes with each practice. Because when I came into Tantra, I was looking for manuals, I was looking for books, and you know, the scriptures need decoding. So I was reading Vigyambhara Tantra and Osho's Book of Secrets and Vajrayana tradition, Riju Ray. I read some books on that. But really, I wanted something that could be applied to day-to-day life. And living Tantra is really where my passion lies. So a lot of where my leadership has been channeled into is creating what was first a school and is now an academy that can hold space for embodied awakening in everyday life.
Beautiful. Yeah. So even now as you're speaking, I just feel a lot of force inside of you. And I feel curious as you are, I relate a lot towards the path of ascension and more the masculine, more the upper chakra qualities. I also, in my experience, has been, my first part of my journey was a lot of the upper chakra awakening, and then suddenly realizing, okay, there's also lower chakras and there's also our sexuality and connection to our body. And I feel curious because I feel, as you were sharing from very early on, you already had this strong leadership. I feel curious, as you were starting to embody more of the feminine qualities, what became more available in your leadership in that process?
My intuition, my need to slow down, and realizing that I needed to delegate a lot of the jobs that didn't come naturally to me if she was to be in her full power. And the way that I see my masculine and feminine working together in business is she informs him. I have dialogues between my masculine and feminine on most days. And, you know, pre-Tantra, he was the boss. Post-Tantra, she's become the boss increasingly. And, you know, just this last month, she was like, okay, we need way more rest. We need 4 days off a week, which for him was just unheard of. So I've changed my whole schedule. I've changed a lot of things. And really, you know, what I like to do is she'll talk about what she needs and her emotions and her intuition and her vision and what brings her joy. And then he'll implement that. So it's like he's the logic and the structure and the implementation, and she's the intuition and the vision and the informer of what's going to bring joy. And, you know, this is one of my last podcasts. You know, I've said no this month to podcast invitations, to interviews, to appearing as guest speaker here, there, and everywhere, because it's just not in my joy anymore. And it was my feminine that really stepped in. And there was a lot of fear in that. There was a lot of fear of, oh, you know, if I'm not doing all of these things, what if people don't find out about me? Or what if they, you know, don't hear about my online courses and all of this stuff, or my retreats? And it's like, I'm not going to let that fear run my life. And so the part of feminine leadership is, for me, always making more important than being productive and efficient and making as much money possible and being as exposed to as many people as possible, the heart, and trusting that, and alignment and trusting that. So, you know, she really needs to feel passionate about what she's bringing forth. And I used to get really passionate with podcasts and interviews, and I just don't anymore. Like, I'm loving this and talking to you, but I'd actually rather be at the beach. But there was a time in my life where I would rather be talking to you. And it's been a recent shift. And I think living in Bali has really supported that. I'm realizing that, fuck, what do I want all of this money for even? And I love money. I love abundance, but I've got plenty of it, and I've been brought up with this belief that I need to have a really big reserve in case something happens, or for when I die, to leave my kids. I'm Italian and I'm 43. I've had 5 houses, we invested smartly. We had a lot of equity. This is now the less money that I've ever had in my life and the happiest I've ever been. And, I've sold everything now. I don't have any assets or a car. I have a good amount of money in the bank. I'm living my best life. And really, to me, leadership is, am I someone that other people would want to be? And what I see is a lot of leaders in the world, they're burning themselves out. They're on this production cycle of like non-stopping. And I feel like Corona, the spirit of Corona is really saying to us, can you slow down, not just in a superficial way, but actually slow down and face the identification that we have with all of these things that we think that's who we are. So, when you said to me, what do you want me to call you? Yeah, I'm a tantra teacher, I'm a writer, I'm a mother, I'm a partner, all of these different titles. And at the end of the day, I'm a soul. And when I'm leading from soul, I'm surrendered and I'm trusting. I'm trusting the no as well as the yes. I'm trusting that from all parts of my body. If it doesn't excite me, I don't do it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Like before we started recording, I was sharing with you that when I share about soul-based leadership, it's so deeply embodying your essence that you naturally assist and inspire and teach others from that. So I feel in my experiences, when we make more of that shift, we start to also shift from moving and doing and controlling and pushing to more of a being moved by something deeper, and allowing that force to move us in each moment, and really trusting the intelligence of what moves us. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember just like something dawning on me. I was really unwell, and I was like glad I was unwell, because it meant that I could have a reason to not have to work that week. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm actually manifesting being unwell now to have time off. And that's when I decided, right, I need more time off. And I've never had more than a day off a week in my whole life. I have like strong work ethic. And I had to really look at all these beliefs that have been passed down from society, from my parents, around working hard. And, the more we're doing, that means that gives us validation. And it's crazy, because if you think about it, technology came in to save us time, but work hours are just as much, and we take work home. And now, emails and client calls are being taken all the time. And part of what my feminine needed last year, actually the year before, was to go, okay, so from this time we switch everything off, and it's just quality time with the kids, with my partner. That's really important. And feminine leadership is always going to be taking into account quality time with loved ones. It's always going to be prioritizing joy and playfulness and passion and creativity. But when the masculine dominates, it's going to be preoccupied with production and efficiency. So bringing these two energies into balance is so important. Without masculine, we don't get anything done. Without feminine, all we do is do, right?
Yeah, that was my curiosity also. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I spent a long time climbing the proverbial ladder of success. I graduated dux of my school. I graduated with honors in law, and there's all of these ways that we can have dopamine release and serotonin release through likes on Facebook, getting certificates, competing, getting everything done in a way that really makes us feel good about ourselves, when our worth is tied in with how much we're doing and how much status we're accumulating.
Yeah.
Right. And then on the flip side, really what the feminine is interested in is joy, and abundance is part of that. Creativity is part of that. Connecting, serving is part of that. And whenever one is dominating, how can you possibly be happy? Because when the feminine is dominating, we're kind of like a feather in the wind, drifting along with no direction, right?
Yeah, that was my curiosity. We're talking about, and I relate a lot with this side of the coin also, where my masculine can be very strong, a lot of moving forward energy, a lot of focus. But I also experience in working, I work mostly with women. I can also see women that are like too much in their feminine, and then it's like they're floating around, and there is not enough focus to really build something up, so I felt, I love that you bring this in, that either one, when one is in charge, there is a disbalance somehow. They need to work together so that something deeper can emerge from that. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And what I've chosen is for the feminine to lead more right now. So she's still communicating to him and listening to him. Previous to that, it was really more equal. And the reason is because I need to do that. I need to let the pendulum swing the other way. And I'm in a position where I can do that.
Yeah.
My business is up. I have a lot of people working for me. I've got passive income coming through. So another thing is that people want to get to master when they're really in the novice stage. So the novice stage is when people are young, they're new to the game, they haven't accumulated a lot of experience and skills, and they're still learning. But what I see in this industry now is that there are a lot of novices, a lot of people who are new to the field, who are acting like masters, who are charging like masters. And, a lot of people have said to me, like, you need to be charging more, you need to be looking after yourself more, this, and this. And I just couldn't hear it, because I wanted to be accessible, and I was still charging per hour. But I hadn't really fully realized my own mastery, in the sense that I should be charging for results, not for the hours I'm giving. And this was a big game changer. And actually, I'm earning more now doing less.
Yes.
But what I realized is I'm a person who really honors the integrity of mastery. And what I didn't realize is that once I got to that mastery, then my value needed to go up. Because a lot of my students were charging more than me, because they were, in these great programs that are like, okay, charge this amount. And I'm watching and kind of in disbelief, because I know that actually they're very inexperienced. Not all of my students, some of them. And it was always very interesting for me. But I looked at the trigger I had around that, and it's like, oh, I'm triggered because I'm not valuing myself.
Yeah.
Where are they expressing what I'm not expressing?
Yeah.
So that was part of the evolution of me shifting from charging per hour to charging per program, and kind of getting into that younger generation paradigm.
Yeah.
So
I relate so much to this.
Yeah, right.
I go into something, I want to go fully into it and learn all the details and really practice before I come out with it. And I recognize so much that there was a point for me where I started to feel, for me, I always need to feel overripe almost before I allow it to come out, right? And for me, so much changed. I would say 10 months ago, even not even that long ago, where I felt like, okay, I feel actually now it's time to charge more for the things I'm offering, where I also had experiences where clients or women I'm working with that maybe just starting, they started to charge more than I'm charging. And I was like, what is happening here? So I really relate to the same process where I do feel it's a very interesting topic to explore. When are we at that point where we can step into our master, when is it time to charge like a master, and when are we still in the student, in the, what's the English word, the
Mm.
novice?
Yeah,
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 yeah. So
yeah.
how is it?
And the novice.
Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
I think when you know the practices so well that you don't have to think about them, you know the craft so well, you're no longer thinking about that, and you can just be a channel for grace.
Yeah,
Like I'm never thinking about anything anymore. I know it back to front, right? So I can just show up in my loving presence and flow with whatever's before me. Like I didn't even remember who you were or what this was. And then when you said Zoom, I'm like, oh, and then you shut up. I'm like, oh, this is a podcast. It's not a session. And that's how I live a lot of my life now. And I wasn't always in that stage, and I am still learning, of course. Life is my greatest teacher. There are some books that I still really enjoy reading. The learning never ends. It's not so much characterized by whether you're a student or not, because I think you're always a student. It's characterized by how well do I know my craft?
yeah,
And do I have a level of mastery in it that I no longer need to think about it, right? And I think when you're at that stage, then you can charge more, than you can own what it is that you're bringing forth with a lot more integrity and power.
yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, I love that you.
And it's great that so many people have courses available and retreats, and it's become so much more popular. Like personal development, 30 years ago was weird. I was weird at school. And then 20 years ago when I started teaching, a lot of the stuff I was teaching was not known at all. And now, people are really picking it up, and that's great. And tantra, especially like a decade ago, it was very controversial, and now it's pretty well known and accepted. So when you've been around for 2 decades teaching, and then you see people who do one retreat or one course bringing something forth, and this kind of shopping market that spirituality has become, it can be a little disheartening, but also deeply heartening in that there's more people being exposed.
Yes.
And, I realized when I was shifting out of taking on new clients and only for one session and only taking people into deep containers, there was a part of my ego that was like, oh, but is the world going to be okay without you, kind of thing? And if you're not doing festivals and this and that. And it's like, of course, there's so many people doing amazing things. I'm teaching one-on-one practitioner training now. So, I'm sending people to the practitioners I'm training. And there's this deep mining of the ego part of me that thinks that I need to be showing up in a certain way or identifying with how I used to show up. And when I have more time and space to just connect with people from my heart and be myself and offer loving presence, actually I'm changing one heart at a time, just by giving people permission to be who they are and connecting with a level of realness and vulnerability that people really need, and having more time and space for that, for my relationship, for my children, and for the things that really matter.
Yeah, beautiful. And that has a massive wave as well, because I also shifted to the deeper containers and working longer one-on-one with the women. And I can also feel that if I only think about who that woman is going to inspire and who those people are going to inspire, it creates a massive wave still, right? And I feel like
Yeah, definitely. Can we just pause for 2 seconds?
Yes.
Sorry, there's just someone knocking persistently.
Yeah. Also, what you've been sharing about, I think you were saying something that you're working less, but you're making more. I also love to, I find that in this shift of going deeper into surrender and allowing something deeper to move me, I find that when we can make space for all the fears that come with that, like, oh, will I still make enough money? Oh, will I still reach enough people? Oh, I find the deeper I dare to surrender, the more fully life starts to meet me with a confirmation, right? So I find that my last launch, I was actually launching from Mexico. I was going on watching whales in the ocean and then doing my calls with the women. And I had like my whole mastermind filled up without me necessarily doing so much. I went 1 week out of the promotion in complete dark. I went in retreat. I maybe sent out one email, one story, and it just filled up. And I feel like when we dare to surrender to that deeper intelligence, it will also start to meet us more fully. And I can see that the way I've been working before, also because it was my mindset and my reality that just was reflected in that way. Because I believed I needed to do certain things. That was also my reality. And I feel like the more I'm giving myself permission to live from a relaxed place, a nourished place, to just be in a beautiful place in the world and spend time at the beach and then spend some time at work, that I'm also actually making more money than ever, but also having more free time than ever. And I feel that I do feel that that's possible for everyone, and I feel that for me, it feels also like a really beautiful, natural way of living. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's amazing because you really start to understand how energy and subtle energetics work.
Yes.
Because the unseen forces are still magnetizing people towards you. And, there's lots of powerful ways to grow your business. And there's so much like do stories every day and do posts and get out there and do, but it's like, if you're pushing and you're hustling and it's not in alignment, then really what's the transmission that you're giving? If you're only, and what I see a lot of is people now, they're going places especially for their stories, or sharing posts not from a space of inspiration, but because they've got a list of content that they've been told works well. And I work with clients around this and just really encourage them to trust that in the being, the doing that arises from that is a more natural inspiration that flows. And that's really where the gold is. And as you say, it's hard to trust that, it's hard to trust, like, is being in my joy going to keep all of that flowing? But everything is energy and everything responds. And absolutely it does. So, you may not be getting out as many newsletters or stories or posts, but you're accumulating energy of actually living the life that people want to live. And that's magnetizing people towards you. They don't even know why, but they're wanting that. And there was a part of me that was, when I was like really in my full work addict days, and then it's thick, everyone has different addictions. Work addiction has definitely been the one I've struggled with. I felt like a bit of a fraud. Before I shifted things, I was feeling like, fuck, actually, when the lights are out and it's just me here, I'm exhausted. And is this what I would want for my clients? No, something has to shift. And that's when I created one of my online courses, Soul-Centered Business. So a lot of my courses, a lot of my practices, my books, they're coming from a space of what I've had to burn through in my own life to reach the next stage of evolution. And I think that's part of how a master works, is that the work is always shifting and changing and evolving, because they're always shifting and changing and evolving. So the deeper we can commit to mining our own hearts, mining our souls, really digging deep, then the fruits of that are going to be so abundant. And people know fruits that are abundant when they taste them. So they just want to taste more. And every time I step further back away from the business, the people who work for me freak out a little bit. But then once it's given time and space to breathe, they realize, oh, fuck, that was perfect. That was perfect. That was perfect. And even like last year with Corona, we had like 8 living tantra retreats lined up. And we were teaching in Colorado and India and Bali, Australia, all these different places in the world. Suddenly we didn't have any of that anymore. And we had all this time and space to work on the online courses, and everyone's freaking out. I'm like, we can finally finish those. Like, they were all recorded, all done. We just didn't have sales funnels. We didn't have landing pages. And we spent 4 years doing those online courses. And just to speak about this Master Novice thing again, because I am a writer and I veer towards perfectionism, all my online courses have huge manuals. They've got audios, they've got videos. And they really give people 8 weeks of diving deeply into whatever that topic is, whether it's sacred sexuality, shadow work, igniting more power in your life, relationship tantra, soul-centered business. It's a whole picture. And I think there's a lot of information going out there right now, and ebooks and online courses that are done very quickly without the mastery that's required. And I think that that's that's part of what I'm really wanting to lead in, is let's do things from a space of mastery, which gives people all of the learning modalities that they need. So when I'm training practitioners, I talk to them about that. I talk to them about giving their clients a space where they're going to activate, but they're also going to integrate, where they have written information that they can turn to. And, there needs to be a space of not just giving sessions and then, okay, they have this amazing experience and now what? Yeah. So I'm very passionate about bringing integration and safety into the field of Tantra. And that's part of my leadership in the field.
Beautiful. So I feel curious as you're sharing this, because what I also find in working with women is that they can tend to be held back by their perfectionism. So as you're speaking now about this mastery and like really coming out when you feel you embodying all the qualities that you need to embody as a master, I wonder what you would say to women that maybe feel held back by perfectionism or never feel ready enough to come out because there is more that they need to study, or they feel insecure if it's enough already. What would you say to women who are feeling like that?
I would first of all say, where are you doubting it from? Are you doubting yourself because you don't know enough about it, or are you doubting yourself because you don't trust yourself, right? It's an important question. I mean, some people I work with, they're saying, oh, I'm afraid to really own it and come out because they've spoken to someone who said that they need to. Like, so how long have you been learning whatever they're in? 1 month or 2 months or 6 months? I'm like, you're not ready. That's why you don't feel ready, right? So there's that. And then there's people who have been studying for years and years and they know it really well and they're afraid to step in. And what I say to that is that you can always do better. Like even with the online courses, right? I edited the manuals, so did 3 other people, and still there's mistakes like in the writing. We had a professional editor, not many, maybe like I'll see 1 or 2 pop up every now and then. And it's like, there's no such thing as perfection, actually. You can always do better at anything. And what I find is if I write something or create something, if I don't get it out quickly, then if it's been like too long in the making, I have to redo it because I've evolved beyond where I was at the creation phase. So I would also say, get it out now and create the next level because there's someone who needs that. So, one of the online courses that took a long time, I'm like, oh, but I would do this differently and this differently. And then my business partner said to me, yeah, but this is perfect for people who are at this particular stage. So then I created something else. So yeah, it's a space of really to feel confident. You need to know that, you can always do better and you can always do worse, but is this good enough to have impact right now? And do I know the material well enough?
I love that.
And with perfectionism in terms of details, it's like, do the right things, not everything right. So that's Tim Ferriss says that, and I really love that saying. Because sometimes I would spend an hour on something on my website that no one's going to give a fuck about, right? And then I ask myself that question. I'm like, is this one of those things that I'm doing right, or is it the right thing? I'm like, it's absolutely not the right thing. And I have a team of perfectionists, of course. So we need to remind one another of this. Do the right things, don't do everything right. For all the perfectionists out there, write it down. And another thing is, I do feel like taking beliefs into the body that are limiting and feeling where they're held in the cells. So some people, they may think, oh, I'm not ready to come out. And I had a client yesterday. She's got a beautiful voice, but she doesn't know why. As soon as she was out in public, she freezes. And so I said to her, you know, what did your mum tell you or your dad when you sang when you were younger? And her mum said, don't be a show off. So we had to take that belief into her body so she could express and release what that belief did to her. She had, you know, this frozen little girl inside that was holding this belief. So we had to unfreeze that part and then give her a new belief that singing is a gift to the world. It's not showing off. And she could sing after that. So we need to take our limiting beliefs and not just jump straight to affirmations. Affirmations are great, but you can't just jump straight to the affirmations and bypass the body. Like, take the limiting belief into the body, feel what that's like, feel where you're holding that tension at a cellular level, release it, and then come out the other side and affirm the beliefs that you're wanting. You know, that's embodied rewiring.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love that you bring this in.
And get feedback from people.
Yeah.
Get feedback from people is another thing. I get my practitioners to do that, you know, as they're practicing, like ask every client for feedback afterwards. And every time they're reading that feedback, they're growing in confidence. And I say, you know, ask for constructive feedback as well, because that's going to make you better and better.
Yes.
So again, there's two sides to it. It's like, yeah, owning your power and stepping forth, but also seeing where there is room for improvement and working on that. That grows your confidence. And sorry, yeah, you were about to share, but
no,
I
it's fine.
other thought drop
I
in.
kind of lost my train of thought, but I love this piece as well. I think it's every time it comes back to finding that sweet spot where there is a certain like balance, or where we can feel both of the ends of the spectrum, right? So I sometimes speak about being superior or inferior to your flow. And when you're superior, it means you're pushing and you're like ahead of the flow, you're trying to make it happen. But when you're being inferior to your flow, you're like holding back, when actually the flow is already calling you forward to step in. And I feel that
yeah, that's
yeah, and I feel it's every time about feeling where we are at. Like, are we being called forward to come out, or are we invited to let it ripen a bit more? And the same also here with the piece that you are bringing in. What was the wording you named? Yeah, asking the feedback from others. I also had experiences where I would start to over reflect on myself, right? Where I started to take everyone's opinion and feedback in, and I started to doubt myself again. So here is also the other end of the spectrum, where we can ask ourselves, who are we taking feedback from, right? Is it someone that I actually trust? Is it someone that I agree with, her or his way of living? Or is it someone that is having a completely different lifestyle and a view on life, and maybe I don't want to take that in? So also here I feel that there is this sweet spot where maybe we are over and over invited again to listen inside and to trust our intuition and to find that sweet spot of taking it, coming out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And only seeking advice from people you want to be like. It's like sometimes my friends will tell me,
so often.
oh, but this, I'm like, why the fuck are you taking advice from them about relationships? Their relationship fucked. Or, you know, why are you taking their advice about how to work when they're clearly overworked and miserable, and their children are so misbehaved because they never get quality time or whatever it is? So it's like, you know, do I want to be like that person? Okay, take advice. But when you're getting feedback from clients, I feel like that's always going to be informing you, you know. And sometimes a client may give feedback that, you know, there could be some projection happening or whatever, but there's always a peppercorn, there's always a grain of truth in the feedback that we receive from people who are in an objective position. Yeah
Beautiful. Let's see. I feel already we shared a lot of richness. I feel it's very inspiring for the ones who are listening, and a beautiful invitation to keep checking in which end of the spectrum we are at, right? Are we completely polarized into our feminine, or are we completely polarized into our masculine? And I agree with you that it doesn't have to be always 50-50, because for me also it feels very true that my feminine leads first, and that sometimes that might look like that I'm surrendering into my feminine and I'm listening deeper, and then there is a very active wave of my masculine, and there's a very active doing, and maybe there is a lot of hours of work, and then there is another wave of my feminine that listens back in. So I guess in the end it comes down to really surrendering and trusting that deeper intelligence, trusting that deeper knowing of when to take in, when to come out, when to be receptive and when to be active, and allowing all the doubts and the fears that come up in that process to move through, and to see them as a sign also that they're releasing us because we no longer need them, and not because they're releasing us because we need to crawl back in our cave and continue to hide. To see them as a sign of releasing that which we no longer need inside of us.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome. It was beautiful to chat with you and connect with you.
Yeah. Is there anything that I didn't ask about that you feel you want to share with the listener or the viewers? Or does it feel complete for you?
I would say, do a surrender experiment where you trust your yes and your no. Like, feel into the body when you get an opportunity. It's like, without using the mind too much, it's like, is this something that feels like a yes from my body, or does it feel like a no? And trust that more than the mind that's like, this is a money-making opportunity or a status opportunity, or I might miss out if I don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. So if anyone who is listening or watching is curious about you and your work, where can they find out more about you?
Embodied Awakening Academy. So there's Instagram, there's social media, there's my website that has lots of blogs. We've got a podcast, Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. So lots of free resources. And then, yeah, I have a few options of working with me privately, but it's a big time, energy and financial investment.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I'm happy that I still was in the wave of saying yes to an invite. So thank
you. Yeah, I'm glad it was lovely to meet you and be with you. Yeah. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you've been resonating with the things I've been sharing around surrendering to a deeper intelligence that moves you specifically in your soul emergence and in your business, then I invite you for the You Are a Soul Leader 6-month soul emergence and business mastermind. Now, we start with a small group of women on the 5th of May. And this mastermind is for women who want to be held in a safe and all permission space. It's a space for your greatness, your power, and your gifts to come out more fully. And soul-based leadership is embodying your own unique essence so deeply that your vibration naturally inspires, teaches, and assists others. This mastermind is for the ones who want to let the mystery be your strategy. It's a space for community and a space where aligned business structures can support the fullness of the transmission that you hold for this world. So go to womenofancientfutures.com and book your free 45-minute discovery call with me. Much love.